So last week, the nation watched as Donald Trump and his 18 co-defendants turned up one by one at the jail in Fulton County, Georgia. District Attorney Fani Willis said repeatedly that no one is above the law. The Fulton County Sheriff also stated that Trump and his co-defendants would be treated like anyone else, saying, quote, "We are following our normal practices, and so it doesn't matter your status." They were booked, fingerprinted, they had mugshots taken. All but one of the defendants was granted bail. Trump's bail was set at $200,000. Rudy Giuliani's $150,000. John Eastman, Kenneth Chesebro, Sidney Powell, Jenna Ellis all had to post $100,000, and they did. They're all paid up, out on bail, and free to live their lives until their court dates, presumed innocent until and unless proven guilty by a jury of their peers. Trump and his team have been dedicated to fundraising kicks, soliciting donations from Trump's following, including by hosting this Giuliani benefit dinner at only $100,000 per plate. But for most people, for most Americans who can't fundraise millions of dollars or sell $100,000 a head dinners, the justice system works a little differently. Cash bail, or money bail, is a system that asks defendants to put up collateral so that they're incentivized to stay out of trouble and show up to their court date. Cash bail varies significantly by state, but generally speaking, defendants are granted bail unless they're accused of a capital crime or unless they're determined to be a flight risk. In short, the judge will decide on a bail amount, which can be anywhere from a few hundred to a few $1,000,000, and the defendant will have the option to pay that amount and remain a free person out of jail, again, innocent until proven guilty. If they return on their court date and avoid arrest in the interim, the money will be returned. Bail bonds are a little different, typically used by defendants or their families who can't pay the full bail amount. They'll pay a non-refundable portion of it to a commercial bond company, which then lends them the money to post the bail. Now, according to a 2022 report by the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, on any given day, there are roughly 650,000 individuals in jails in this country. Not prisons, by the way. That's a much, much, much higher number. But roughly 75% of the 650,000 people, so this is roughly 500,000 people, are being held in pretrial detention, meaning they haven't been convicted despite being presumed innocent until proven guilty. They're in jail. 500,000 people right now sitting in jail just waiting for their day in court. The vast majority of them are there because they can't afford to post bail. Now, according to the American Bar Association, nationally, the median bail amount is about $10,000, and the median annual income of people who are in pretrial detention is about $15,000. Which translates to asking that people provide roughly 8 months of income up front to post bail. These numbers vary a lot by state. In 2019, in New Jersey, for instance, the New Jersey Administrative Office of the Courts found that the average bail amount for defendants who could not afford it was $2,500. 800 defendants in New Jersey were unable to post bail of $500 that year, so they sit in jail. The system puts poor, low-wealth, and low-income Americans at a huge disadvantage. In many parts of this country, two people could commit the same crime and face the same bail amount. And the one who can afford bail will return to their life free until their trial, which may be months away. The other, unable to afford to post bail, will sit in jail for as long as it takes to reach that trial date. In effect, the cash bail system criminalizes poverty. According to the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, nearly 60% of pretrial detainees are held because they can't afford to post bail. The report also found that Black and Latino men faced higher financial conditions of release compared to other demographics. In many cases, they're asked to post roughly twice the amount as their white counterparts for committing exactly the same crime. Now, this method of ensuring defendants return to court by using a negative financial incentive systematically forces poor people accused of crimes to cool their heels in jail. People who have not yet been convicted, who, again, under our judicial system are presumed innocent until proven guilty, often have to sit in jail for weeks, months, and sometimes years awaiting their trial. And it's not just the money. Study after study has shown that pretrial detention increases the rate of recidivism, of mental health issues, of homelessness, and unemployment. Jails are violent, abusive environments that perpetuate the very violence that the system is designed to prevent. However, we are starting to see some change take form. More states are trying to reform their systems, and some states like Alaska, Illinois, and New Jersey have ended money bail altogether. Other states like California and New York take into account a person's wealth and income when deciding on bail amounts or other pretrial release conditions. But as hundreds of thousands, literally, of Americans, most of them low-income black and brown men, sit in jail without even being convicted of a crime, that change may not be coming soon enough.